assassination of Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King. And Dr. Baldwin, before we had our second commercial break, we promised that we would give you an opportunity to sort of give us some additional information about the assassination of Dr. King. Of course, Dr. Al-Hadid will sort of feed in off that.
Yeah, I wanted to pick up on a point that Dr. Al-Hadid made about the possibility of the two men coming together. There are two reports about what happened in the weeks prior to Malcolm's assassination. Dr. Kenneth Clark, the black psychiatrist, and also William Consular, who was a civil rights attorney. Both men reported that Malcolm and Martin had scheduled a meeting for February 23rd, 1965. And of course they were to meet in Dr. Clark's office at City College there. Perhaps discuss the future course of the movement, because Dr. King at that time was interested in moving from the north to the south into places like Chicago and perhaps even Harlem to deal with slum conditions and education and other problems that were confronting the inner cities. As Dr. Al-Hadid pointed out, Malcolm was assassinated on February 21st, 1965, 2 days before that scheduled meeting. And one wonders what would have happened had they had the chance to really meet and talk and to sort of map strategy for the future. I think that too had some influence on the assassination, certainly of Malcolm X, because the meeting was planned about 2 weeks in advance of the assassination. And of course, there was no way that the power elite could allow these two forces to come together in the struggle. I mentioned also before the break that about these two schools of thought on King's assassination. Now, in the early years, 1970, William Bradford Huey published a book called He Slew the Dreamer, and he advanced this lone assassin theory about James Earl Ray being the only assassin, and that theory has lasted up until now. Gerald Posner a couple of years ago published a book called Killing the Dream, where he advanced that same theory. But I think the prominent theory today is the conspiracy theory. Most of the scholars who deal with the assassination of Dr. King line up with that theory, arguing that that King's assassination resulted from a combination of forces from the intelligence community, organized crime, local police officials, and I tend to subscribe to that theory myself.
You know, Dr. Al-Hadid, Dr. Baldwin has indicated the violence associated with both these assassinations, but I think you also indicated during the break that this was also a period of the bloody 60s in which not only are we dealing with the assassination of King and Malcolm, but we're also dealing with others. Speak to that issue.
Yes, it was the decade of the assassination of Medgar Evers, Robert Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, and there were a lot of things going on abroad, too, in terms of assassination of leaders or overthrows of governments. King made a statement. He said that the bombs dropped in Vietnam explode in America in inflation and depression and economic injustice. And he also said that he'd come so far that he could not, at this point, segregate his morals, that justice is indivisible, that violence in Vietnam is morally wrong, and violence in America is also morally wrong. So I think that both men were moving toward an international interpretation and understanding of the problem. In '64, Malcolm made the pilgrimage in April, and that same year, in December, Dr. King received the Nobel Peace Prize. So both of them were anointed as international statespersons. So when they came back into America, they had the power of that. King became a threat to the intelligence community at the point in which he received the Nobel Peace Prize, because they knew at that point that whatever he said was basically the word, and people would respond to it. Another thing you have to